South America, before the 1800s, was a very elite-based system where education was closed and reserved mainly for the rich. But there was one man that changed everything. Not only did he change the educational system, but the mindsets of those that were once below to rise. Some would call him a revolutionary, while others would know him as a visionary, not only for South America, but also the world. He was Eugenio María de Hostos. Hostos' story starts on January 11, 1839, in Mayagüez, Puerto Rico, where Spain still administered the island's government and many other territories in the Caribbean. At the age of 13, Hostos moved to Spain, where he started his academic career in the Institute of Bilbao to attend law school. Throughout his time in college, he thrived as a revolutionary thinker among his peers, becoming part of this movement in Spain during the late 1860s and early 1870s. Interested in displacing corrupt European monarchies. He attracted the attention of people such as a fellow revolutionary writer, Benito Pérez Galdós. Hostos became an advocate for independence and equal rights, frontiers that were difficult to cross in many parts of Latin America, still under the influence and control of Spanish colonial rule. Eventually, these movements for independence and equality aided sovereignty, civil rights, and educational barriers in efforts to bring justice for all. Hostos pioneered the frontier of ideas and teachings that would eventually become a driving force in the independence and equal rights movement seen throughout many colonies in Latin America towards the end of the 19th century. His vision and educational philosophy helped cross frontiers that limited social structures, inspiring a new generation of leaders that would take prominence in the coming years to fight for social justice. There were many socio-political obstacles that led to the need to explore a new frontier that could open doors for all. With Spain beginning to relinquish control of its former colonies in Latin America, many new governments emerged, attempting to establish themselves as sovereign nations. However, these governments were under great turmoil, as their people had no means to govern, still applying the philosophies of a colony, not a sovereign state. This led to newly independent territories such as the Dominican Republic to still rely on Spain for trade, governing, and stability. The Dominican Republic was independent, but the people could not cut off their ties to the way of life they were indoctrinated into. Thus, the drive for a new frontier led many to reach sovereignty through education. This movement, which began in the 1860s, was an attempt to achieve complete sovereignty for former Spanish colonies through the use of new educational philosophy, applying morality and ethics in instruction. This new movement revolved around the unification of all Caribbean territories to create the Caribbean Confederation, an alliance which would help bolster each former colony's ability to achieve sovereignty. Puerto Rican sovereigntists, such as Segundo Ruiz Belvis, led the charge for colonies such as Puerto Rico to declare their independence and form an alliance with other Caribbean states, thereby establishing themselves as legitimate countries. Hostos was a man whose ideas inspired the people and the places he visited. A brief visit to the United States in 1861, he witnessed the principles and democratic ideas upon which the nation was built, and served as an inspiration to publish La Peregrinación de Bayonne. This book became one of the most important writings which argued for the liberation of the Antilles Islands. His most powerful belief, however, is that Spain should establish a republic so that equal liberties may be given to the colonies under Spain at the time, granting Puerto Rico eventually its freedom. His philosophy also promotes an educational model for children and young adults, contributing to his reputation of being regarded as a moral and influential man in the field of education. He continued to write about his ideas with the book Moral Social, which states that human instincts are moving toward barbarism, and through reason, common sense, and conscience, the people could reach a moral compass. Hostos believed in separating religion from education, similar to the United States Constitution, with its emphasis on separating religion from government. By offering education, he believed society would suppress their natural instincts and instead use their reasoning to solve social problems.
Bueno, en América Latina influyó muchísimo más que Puerto Rico. Deja responderte eso rápido, para que no se nos escape. Pues porque fue educador allí, dirigió escuelas, fue maestro, profesor universitario, y llegó a escribir muchos artículos de prensa, de periódicos. Tiene un libro que se llama La ciencia de la pedagogía, en el que expresa cuál es su sentir con respecto a cómo se debe educar, sobre todo a los niños. Tiene, sin embargo, múltiples artículos, como ya les decía, sobre la educación que se publicaron en revistas, en periódicos, etc.
Hostos' efforts at transforming the frontiers of Caribbean liberty and education involved a hands-on approach through literary works and political activism. As an adamant believer in the self-reliance and growth of these and other countries in Latin America, Hostos believed that the people of said countries should be well educated and aware of their rights as people. In 1870, he did a 4-year trip in Latin America, spreading propaganda for his themes of the abolition of slavery and a federation of Antillean nations. He visited countries such as Cuba, Peru, Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela, and Colombia, spreading his philosophical ideas that included to, but were not limited to, human rights and personal dignity. In his quest, Hostos constantly fought for the reform of politics, social constructs, education, and law in Latino America, and even established his own school in Santo Domingo supporting this purpose, which happens to be the first general school in the country. Hostos' efforts never ceased as he relentlessly advocated against archaic absolutist monarchies through newspapers, conferences, travels, suffragette papers, and debates, where he encouraged the restructuring of Spain as a democratic federation. He published works such as La Moral Social, where he wrote down his beliefs and organized and founded La Liga Puertorriqueña de Patriotas and La Educadora, which is an educational society for the study of constitutions. Overall, one can argue that Hostos' philosophical ideas left a significant legacy as one of the forefathers of social sciences and humanities in Latin America. He was easily considered one of the brightest minds at the time, who advocated educational principles that left a prominent mark on the future of instructional models that future generations would use as academic building blocks to help restructure social inequalities. He believed that education was the only road to progress. Currently, in the 21st century, his methods of teaching are now valued as Hostos' instructional model, where he reinforced a moral point of view apart from the physical world with 3 main roots that spread to enrich the human mind for a better outcome. With moral thinking, Hostos introduced the roots as moral natural, moral individual, and moral social. In addition, the educator argued that to maintain the link between modern science and politics, equality in academics was required to safeguard equal opportunities. To reinstate how essential this was for many countries, such as Chile, with the Chilean Women's Rights Act of 1870s, he was allowed to put forth his revolutionary writings and open doors for higher education and professional institutions for females. Despite not being able to meet his initial goal of converting the Caribbean into a confederation of independent states, Hostos' influence changes nonetheless by promoting freedom, sovereignty, justice, and democracy throughout Latin America.
Bueno, yo creo que la lucha que Hostos dio por la educación, esa insistencia en que la educación es muy importante, el que la educación debe ser como prioridad en nuestra sociedad, yo creo que ese es el gran legado de Hostos, junto a su persona, que fue ejemplar, quiere decir honesto, dedicado, sacrificado, etc. Hostos fue un hombre pobre toda su vida, ¿verdad? Y que se dedicó a enseñar en circunstancias en las que cualquier otro se hubiera ya renunciado. Así que ese afán por compartir la educación, por insistir en la importancia de la educación, yo creo que es una aportación extraordinaria para los puertorriqueños, independientemente de que uno esté o no esté de acuerdo con respecto a alguna de las ideas de Hostos, ¿no? Yo puedo estar en desacuerdo con ciertas ideas con él, pero me parece que la presencia de él en el ámbito educativo es tremenda, es amplia, ¿no? Es amplia, y yo creo que se debe recordar como el educador dedicado y sacrificado que fue.
In the end, with Hostos' death, Latin America and Puerto Rico lost one of its greatest minds. The citizens of the Americas, as he was known for, helped close the barriers to the frontier when, for the most part, his visions for education, justice, and sovereignty have come to fruition in many parts of the world he closely advocated for. This demonstrates that Hostos' legacy in inspiring Latin American nations left an indelible mark in the search for social justice, which he believed could be achieved through democratic values and education. A vision he hoped would become a reality in the hopes of bringing progress to all of the people of Latin America.